Hello everyone. Today we're making something at the request of my nephew, Vinny. Vinny is my brother John and my sister-in-law Camille's son, their youngest. And Vinny is married to Therese. Vinny is a nurse in the intensive care unit at the Virginia Hospital. And Therese is a clerk for a judge in Washington, D.C. And they have a beautiful daughter. I call her my little bug because she has big brown eyes. But her name is Claire. And Claire is going to turn 2 pretty soon at the end of June. Vinny, when I started making these cooking videos, said, Uncle Joe, you have to, my request is make Grandma's relish. Now, in my household, years ago, as I've talked about my childhood, my mother canned tomatoes, bushels of tomatoes, and they had to be the pear-shaped tomato. None of the regular tomato, no beefsteak, the pear, the Italian pear tomato. And she would make sauce and jar it for the winter, anywhere from 500 quarts, and I kid you not. And she would can peaches and grape juice and you name it, pickles, and just worked day and night during canning season. Well, there isn't really a canning season anymore. People would rather just go to the store and buy it. But this relish, oh, so good. I had aunts, Aunt Nell and Aunt Mary McDade, Irish. And we called them Aunt out of respect. They were very dear friends of the Cherry family. Aunt Nell and Aunt Mary were just remarkable women. Aunt Nell quit teaching, her love teaching, to take over the dress store when her aunt became sick. And she left teaching, never to return it again. But she taught the things she taught me. She was a wonderful cook. And I'll be making some of her recipes. Her Swedish meatballs. Oh, wonderful. But my mother would can relish. And as I told you before, my mother would bake bread every week, 25 pounds of flour, even in canning season. And inevitably, when the relish was done, they'd take a jar of relish and a loaf of homemade bread down to Aunt Nell's house. And they lived in a beautiful, beautiful house. It was like a mansion. Anyway, in the middle of the night, they'd catch one another in the kitchen. What are you doing up? Aunt Mary would say, I just was dreaming of that bread and that relish, and I couldn't stand it anymore. And they had a friend, Mary DeMott. We call her Aunt Mary Amott. And she would visit them, and she also would end up in the kitchen. And we're talking after midnight in the kitchen, eating bread and butter and relish. So Vinny, this recipe is for you. Now, I cut it in half because I wasn't going to make all that relish. But you take, and this is the halved recipe, you take 2 cups of cut up onions, 2 cups of cut up cabbage. Don't use the core, of course. Just use the good part. 2 cups. 5 green tomatoes, and they've got to be green tomatoes, not red, because you're going to use 3 red peppers and 6 green peppers. Now you get that all ready. Put it in a bowl and have it ready to grind. Now my poor mother, and when we grew up, we all took turns with the hand grinder grinding the vegetables. The cabbage was the worst. But my handy KitchenAid mixer attachment, wonderful. Now I have mostly everything ground, and I'm going to just grind, just for the effect. I'm going to grind 4 green tomatoes that I have left. Everything else is ground. So, green tomatoes. And I'll just let that push its way out. You always have to have something there, unless you have a larger board. I always put a paper towel down because it shoots some of the juice out. Okay, that's pretty much it. Okay, I'm going to release the grinder. At least I think I'm going to release the grinder. There we go. And I'm going to just tip it and empty anything out that might be still in there. Now, this relish is a 2-step process. You do the grinding, well actually a 3-step. You do the grinding, then I'm going to cover it with a 1/4 cup of pickling salt. Now if you don't have pickling salt, you can use sea salt, but don't use table salt, because table salt has iodine in it, and even if it doesn't, it has some anti-caking material in it that won't let the process go through. This salt sits on top and permeates through the relish. It's really amazing, but it does. Now, I'm just going to take a spoon and I'm just going to mix this relish, all of the vegetables. In fact, it is called a vegetable relish. We all thought, oh, Mom made this up, but Mom said I did not. She got it out of her Better Homes and Garden cookbook. I don't know if they still put it in, but it's under vegetable relish or hot dog relish. And as I said, you just grind all those vegetables, and now I mixed everything. And now I'm going to take a 1/4 cup of sea salt. Now remember, we have the regular recipe, so it's only a 1/2 cup. And I'm going to sprinkle this over the top, and I am not going to mix it in. You do not mix it in. It will do its thing, just being on top. I had a friend, and they wouldn't believe me, and they were astonished. Okay, now you're going to leave this overnight, and in the morning we're going to can it. So until then, say a prayer for my mom and dad. Please say a prayer for me, that I can get picked up by a diocese to be ordained a priest. It's very hard at my age, and other things. But I have the degree. I just can't find a diocese that will ordain me. By the grace of God and your prayers, maybe a bishop will watch this. Pick it up. Share these videos. Please, please share them. And God bless you until tomorrow.